Hey everybody, it's Mario, aka M Dot. As some of you know, we did a Rivals Perspective back at the beginning of the season before it kicked off, where we brought a fan from Porto, Sporting, and Braga. Did 3 different episodes and talked in detail what each club was up to. Give us a good idea what our rivals are doing on the other side. The goal of this show was to do a miniature version where I had a few minutes with each individual. Went a little longer on Bruno, and then the Braga show was absolutely hilarious. I look forward to releasing that one. So then I just decided, these will be 3 standalones, so that way they're a little bit better in size for people to listen. Thank you so much. Hope you guys enjoy, and here we go. All right, so I got Bruno with me here. He's, as everyone should know, or people that don't know, he's a big Porto fan, obviously. He's done a lot of work with the Three Tugas, with No Filter Football. Obviously, a big passionate fan of the club.
Futebol No Filter.
Futebol No Filter. There we go, butchering it again. I gotta get caught on that one. Cynthia always corrects me on that, by the way. I say it all the time the other way, and I'm like, oh god.
It's all good.
It's just a forced habit. But you love talking Porto. We had you on for the Rivals Perspective. We did a whole segment with you. And so the whole goal of today is just getting that pulse check. Halfway past the season, we just passed the halfway mark in the Liga NOS. Lots of games still to be played, but I just wanted to, start off with, how do you feel Porto is today relative to where you expected them to be at the beginning of the year?
Probably right where we are is right where I expected to be. In the beginning of the season, first couple of games, there was some the play wasn't the best. I think that 3 week window, not really have a preseason within 2 weeks and restarting in a week it was really hard. We had a lot of new players. We lost an influential player, which was Alex Telles. And adding the new players, trying to get them into the scheme, getting into what Sergio Conceição wants. It was a bit of a challenge at first. I think when they got their legs under them, that's where we start to see what the real value of the team is. There have been some disappointing results. Not gonna lie. The big ones were against Maritimo at home. That was pretty surprising. We lost 3-2. Kind of shocked us. Maritimo, I don't think ever won at the Stadio do Dragão. And then we went away and we lost. We had a dismal performance against Paço Ferreira, where it could have been ugly, and we lost 3-2. Other than that, ever since then, I think we went on a pretty big win streak. Defense is still not where I was hoping them to be, but again, I think that has a lot to do with the quality of Manafá. I think Zaidu now is really starting to struggle with dealing with playing on a big club.
Yeah.
The pressure that every game we have to win, he's struggling with it. And not to mention that he's the only left back. I think there's still a little bit of an unbalance there, so I think that's an issue. Pep has also been injured here and there. That has hurt inconsistency of play there. I think midfield we've been fine, but it is not a coincidence that when Otavio's not in the lineup, we struggle. Otavio is one of the key players on the team. We do get him back today against Boa Vista in the Invicta Derby. Up top, I have to say, the guy that has been the biggest surprise has been Taremi. I know he was a good player. I didn't think he was going to be a starter. I didn't think he was going to be influential. I thought he was going to be a player where he was going to be good off the bench, start here and there. But he's been really a guy, a very influential player. The guy that I thought that we should have moved was Marega. Clearly, outside of Champions League, he just doesn't seem like he has the motivation to play. In the Liga, in the Taça games, whatever, he just doesn't seem like he's interested in playing. And then the drop off between the two, I won't say it's significant. I think Ivan Nilsson is a very good player. I think he needs more minutes. He's very dangerous inside the box. The one guy that I think that they probably should have loaned out in this transfer window was Tony Martinez. Tony Martinez is just not what he's not ready for Porto at the moment. And there's been and probably the biggest disappointment out of all those signings that we had was Felipe Anderson. I think he was by far he's a tremendous player with the ball at his feet. However, he just doesn't seem like he's interested. And we
Yes.
should have just returned him back in January.
So I was going to ask you a question. You kind of answered as you were talking. Well, I was going to kind of all the signings you got, the one that surprised you the most would be Taremi, I'm guessing, right? Based on what you said there. And the one that, let's say, that you got that you're excited to see that hasn't lived up, would it be Anderson there?
Yeah, it would have been for sure, Mario. I mean, listen, he's played the Cup games, he's played some Champions League games, he's played some league games, and Mario. I mean, the guy just doesn't produce. He doesn't seem like he wants to be on the field. He doesn't seem like he wants to be there. He just, I don't know. He's like in a different world, and Cedric Conceição has hinted at it in the past because when he was asked in press conferences about him, he's hinted that he needs to understand that our league has also quality. So what that tells me as a fan on a guy on the outside is that he doesn't respect the league and he feels he's above the league. And the way he plays, you can tell he thinks he's above the league. Certain things that he does on the field, certain moves that he does on the field, he shows little disrespect to the player that is defending him. And I would say 19 out of 20 times, 29 out of 30 times, he is losing the ball in places there he should not be losing the ball.
Just overconfident on the opposition. And I got to say, this year's had a few surprise packages, one of them being Pachareda, right? What would you say
Sure.
in your case, halfway in, what would be your top two or three biggest surprises you've seen in the league, in your opinion?
So I think there's definitely two. I think Pachareda is overachieving right now with the roster that they have. Let me get this straight, and I want to throw it right out there. Their midfield is strong. Eustáquio, Amaral, Bruno Costa. They have Luis Carlos, the veteran. They have Douglas Dunk up top. They have Elder Ferreira that was from Guimarães. They have Luther Singh that's on loan from Braga. Those are quality players. So attacking wise, they're very strong. Defensively, they're a little shaky. They did have a very good left back, Oleg, that we were trying to get back. He decided to go to Olympiacos instead. Defensively, they still have their limitations, but I think midfield and attack wise, they're very strong. The other team, and that's the positive surprise. The team that has been the most disappointing, I would have to say, is Famalicão, but understandably. I mean, think about it. They lost 7 or 8 starters from the last year. One of our listeners on Futebol No Filter, Brandon, threw out some interesting stats about them. They're the team that has used the most amount of players this year. Mario, they've used 40 players so far in half the season.
Shocking. That's shocking for a club their size. Also,
40
I
players.
hadn't looked into that one. That's fascinating.
And that's a lot of players. Now I get it. You sold a lot of your best players. Bot was one. Tony Martinez was another. They lost Fabio Martins back to Braga, who sold him to Saudi Arabia. They lost Diogo Gonçalves to Benfica. They lost a bunch of players. They lost a center back that returned to Atletico Madrid. They had lost a left back and a midfielder to Valencia that went back on loan. I mean, they lost a lot of guys, and you can't just all right. Well, we lost X, we'll replace them with Y, and the same amount of players. That just doesn't work that way, Mario. The quality is just not there, and I think that's been the most disappointing team so far.
I got to add, I think this year, some of the most exciting Porto matches I've seen from a neutral, outsider's perspective, let's say. I've enjoyed this back and forth with Braga because you guys have had this streak with the league and then the Taça Portugal. The level of fight between the two teams has been rather exciting. Obviously, a lot of drama recently. You have a Taça semifinal coming up. do you feel it's a bit of a coin toss right now? Who's going to get that match, or do you got a feeling because of the fact that there's a Liga NOS, there's Europe, and there's other items that rotation may force a situation where it might be tougher for Porto to advance? Like how are you feeling going into that second leg? I guess you could say.
Well, I mean, you know, in this particular game, we're talking about the cup game tie, not the league tie. We're talking about the cup game tie. I felt that it was a very narrow win, or it was a very narrow lead, 1-0. But when you red card Luis Diaz, which was one of the most dynamic players at the time of the game, injustifiably, that in my opinion, that he was red card. I don't know if you agree or disagree.
I always feel like the injury will nudge a ref. I'm not saying it's right or wrong, but it nudges a ref in a certain direction, right?
Well, that's what his explanation was. His explanation was, but he broke his foot. Yeah, but there was no intention. I mean, he's shooting the ball. It accidentally, it was poor coincidence that he's planting his foot after he takes a shot. So his natural motion is taking a shot, and what goes up must come down. So it was going down to where he was just planting his foot into the ground, and it happened that the defender got there a fraction of a second later than when he took the shot, and he landed on his leg. I think it was a poor choice, and I think that was the point, the turning point of the match, because that red card really hurt Porto, going 10 men. And then, Uribe justifiably got a red card for head, but however, the VAR nor the referee either ignored or they did not want to see the actions of Andrea Huerta in that play. I will want to say that the VAR and the referee did not want to see the actions of Skata stepping on Marega. And I love the new excuse. Well, but Marega's a big guy. He can take the punishment. Doesn't necessarily mean that even though he's a big guy, he can take the punishment. Doesn't mean that you don't call the foul. And he gets stepped on. I mean, that's a direct red. No call. The David Carmo, he steps on. I think it was Fabio Vieira. He steps on his heel. That's a direct red. And the referee, nothing. So I think if by chance Porto draws at home with 2-2, 3-3, whatever it is, we're out of the cup based on poor decisions by the referee. Do I feel confident in? I think that Sergio Conceição will motivate his team to beat Braga, and I want to say that we're going to beat them, obviously, because I think the team will respond.
But would you say, like, going into that game, are you going to be sitting there going, I don't know if we're going to advance or not advance, overly confident? I'm assuming you're neutral on it because given how tight it is, right?
I feel confident that we're going to win based on what the circumstances of what happened in the game, and now that they got, like you said, and the rivalry now, like there's been some type of heated rivalry.
Yeah. And I think it helps with the Liga NOS game than this game. When it's back to back to back, you're just seeing more of that FaceTime. So the players in regular games get in each other's faces, but when you have to face the same opponent several times in a row in a short time period, you can easily see the tensions building, especially if there's a potential cup at hand. Looking at because you brought up referees, and referees are the topic to discuss every year in this Liga. Like, there is no year that goes by where it's not a topic. There's always debates, and everyone from the various fan bases always gets upset and cries about everything. And it's normal. And I find the one thing that I find amusing is, and I'm not trying to poke at Porto or poke at Benfica in any shape, way, or form, is the biggest complaint is Porto's gotten all the penalties. But I do also note that Porto's also been given the most penalties against. Across the board, do you feel that they've been relatively fair on both ends, or because it's funny, like it isn't a case where it's all slanted towards you guys getting penalties. It's pretty much you're getting a lot of calls out of the big three against you for penalties that you guys suffer, but then also you're getting every other game a penalty also in Liga NOS. It's something with your games that seem to generate all the PKs one way or the other.
I want to, a lot of people, we debate this a lot on Futebol No Filter as well. and you hear on the soccer shows in Portugal, Porto has a lot of penalties, blah blah
Eh,
blah. There is a reason why the big three and Braga wanted Taremi, because Taremi was the most penalized player at Rio Ave last year. So what do I mean by that? Penalized meaning he was brought down the most amount of times by anybody in the Portuguese league last year for a penalty at Rio Ave. So the big three and Braga all wanted him at the end of the season. There was a scramble to get him at the end of the season. Why? Because, I mean, let's be honest. If he's the most penalized guy, he's got to be pretty dangerous in the box. Right now, he's one of Porto's top goal scorers.
yeah.
He wins a lot of fouls inside the box. And I hear, Benfica fans, Sporting fans, Braga fans. Well, that's not really a penalty. Come on, guys. Let's be honest. The guy gets brought down. He knows how to position his body. And defenders have one choice: either let him go or foul him, and that's what's happening. There is a reason why all those clubs wanted him, because he knows how to win fouls inside the box.
Yeah, no, it's a good point.
Now,
Like,
I will say this: a lot of people
go for it. Yeah, sorry.
I will say this: we do have the most penalties out of the big three against. We have the most red cards by far against us versus anybody else. I believe we have played the least amount of times against 10 versus anybody else. I think Benfica has the most, if I'm not mistaken. And maybe you should fact check that, but I think Benfica is the team that played the most against 10.
I'll still check that one.
So you want to talk about there's balance there. There's balance. I'm going to finger point you against you. You're going to finger point against me. But at the end of the day, it kind of all balances out there, because everyone has some type of advantage and a disadvantage.
And then in looking at the table itself, we got Sporting in the lead by a good margin. So do you think Porto will be able to break that and potentially still clinch the Liga NOS, or do you think Sporting is going to run away with it at this point?
I think they're going to run away with it. The answer is definitely not. The one thing that Sporting has not gone through that Porto and Benfica have gone through, is that Porto and Benfica have both had mid-season struggles. Benfica has had already 2 cycles of mid-season struggles. Beginning of the season and somewhere around the holidays, they were struggling there. Porto in the beginning of the season, they had a lot of struggle because of getting into a rhythm. Benfica, Sporting, if you want to call it a struggle, and it really wasn't a struggle, it was just missing players due to COVID, was in the beginning of the season. After that, they've been pretty much rolling, because they've only really had to prepare for a league or a cup game somewhere in the middle of the week. Porto and Benfica are playing games every 3 days. 3-4 days they're playing. Sporting now, from now until the end of the season, have only to worry about the league. They don't have to worry about UEFA. They don't have to worry about any type of cup, because they're out, and they won one. So I think that they're going to go through a mid-season struggle. And I keep on saying this, Mario. You may agree with me. Yeah. You may not agree with me. But I strongly believe that the Sporting fans will give away a league title.
You think they'll get involved and find some way of causing commotion to their own club?
When the fans return back to the stadium, that is where Sporting is going to lose grip of the league title.
That has been a joke we've made on our show from time to time, is that, and we talk more from a Benfica perspective, but I will say this in earnest about Porto also. I feel those 2 teams, they are a 12th man, the fan base. And in Sporting's case, their fans feel like a red card.
It's the reverse.
It feels like they're down a guy. Now, I am curious, though. I'm curious if, we get to a point where we see fans in the stadium before the season wraps up. We might come the tail end of the year. And I do wonder if the euphoria of the idea of winning a title and the fact that they haven't been in the grounds in so long will bring a ruckus crowd. But at the same time, man, if the fans return and that just so happens when they drop a couple of games, if the fans don't seem like they're on their side, that could be a really demotivating factor.
Well, let's be honest, Mario. why has Sporting struggled the last few years? Because a lot of it, let me rephrase that. Where has Sporting been the weakest? Weakest. It's been at home. It hasn't been away. They were a better away team than they were at a home team. Why? Because their fans would get on their team, and their players could not handle that pressure.
Yeah, it's
And
well, it's all
that is
it's the instability at the top, and knowing that the fans are playing a very big role in that instability, and it's leading to it had led to a situation where there was less confidence in even that president at the time or the manager at the time being around, because it felt like everyone was so enraged with something that you're constantly going to see something in flux changing. Therefore, why bother committing a long-term effort? I don't know. I feel like sometimes when you don't believe in the direction of the team, and you're seeing your fans not believe in the direction, probably defeats you as an individual working there, right?
Well, I believe that the desperation of the fans, if things start getting closer to the end of the league, and let's be honest, like last year around this time, Benfica fans were talking like the league is won. We already got the league. It's 7 points, 10 points, whatever it was, difference, blah blah blah. And then things started to erupt very quickly. You suffered two straight losses, one at Porto, one at home to Moreirense, and you dropped 6 points. Porto were able to close the gap. I strongly believe that we're going to see a Sporting team that's going to take 1, 2 straight losses somewhere, or drop 2 games, or lose a game, tie a game, or tie 2 games, and there's going to be a sequence of drop points, and that's where the fans are going to go bananas. That's where the team is going to start. Oh, hold on a second, we're creating self doubt again, and that's where the two rivals are going to, where their experience is going to be beneficial to them versus Sporting.
Now the big question is, and I do believe Sporting will run into a patch. I think it's just natural. They're going to have a couple of results that aren't good.
Yep.
Do you feel confident from a Portista perspective that Porto is today in a state where they have found the rhythm they want to be in, or that there's still more choppiness ahead?
Depends on if we're still going to be seeing red cards on a weekly basis or a match day basis, then it's going to be more complicated. I mean, ever since the Supertaça, we started to see there's always a key element always missing because of something, either COVID related injury, or suspension. So the last couple of suspensions, maybe it's coincidental, maybe it's not, but we've seen Otavio, we've seen Sergio Oliveira, we've seen Luis Diaz, we've seen Corona, we've seen Uribe. Probably the 5 most influential players that Porto has, we've seen. Now they just started a new one with Pep. Now they're saying that he's going to get suspended because of the words that he said. I mean, this is what we got to deal with as a Porto nation. And we have to find ways. I mean, guys have to step in and they have to produce.
Now, do you think, though, putting that part aside, let's say tomorrow, as the suspensions start passing and things of sort, and there's no suspensions, do you feel Porto has their ducks in order to kind of play consistently right now? Like, do you think they have their formation, their identity?
We were there right before all these suspensions started happening.
So you think, okay, so that's...
We were starting to get into a nice rhythm.
Yeah. And then and one last thing I got to touch on, because obviously Champions League coming up, Juventus not having the greatest season in Serie A. However, everyone keeps making the excuse saying, well, they've won enough Serie A's, they're going to focus on Europe. I still think that domestic form could be an indicator of your European form at times. Do you feel confident heading into that game? It's a very tough game with Ronaldo. But what's that feel like as a Porto fan going into that match?
To be honest with you, I haven't put a lot of thought into Juventus yet. The chip, as they say, hasn't changed yet. I think with Juventus, I think that right there is just going to be a self-motivation because you're playing such a big club with a lot of history. Juventus, 2 months ago, if we played them, I would say there was no doubt that we were going to beat them. but now they're starting to gain form, and that is why when the draws come out 2 months prior, 3 months prior, oh, that was a great draw. Was it a great draw? We don't know that because it's 3 months from now. We don't know. Teams go up and down in form all the time. Now they're starting to gain a little steam because they're starting to see that the Serie A title could be slipping away. I'm not saying that it is slipped away. I'm saying it could be slipped away. So, or could be slipping away. They're gaining traction. I think we're a notch or two below where we were in terms of form, but that has a lot to do with inconsistency of the starting lineup. We should be at full strength for Juventus, hopefully, without any injuries. Let's see what happens. But if we are full strength, I think we could beat them at home, and hopefully we could get a good result away.
Cool. And then anything you feel that when you look at Porto, that sometimes you got players that haven't shown up, but you feel like someone's ready to break out any moment now that people aren't talking about, or do you kind of your stars are your stars for now? There's nothing else you expect in the short term that's going to pop out, or is there someone that you feel in the woodworks about to kind of been unlucky, but they're on the verge of bursting out?
I think the guy that I think just needs more playing time, just needs more and more of an opportunity is Ivan Nilsson. I think this guy could be a very, very dangerous striker for Porto. Very dangerous striker. He lacks a little bit of mobility. He lacks a little bit of speed, but his prowess inside the box is where he's very lethal. He's probably our most efficient striker. Believe it or not, he's more efficient than Taremi because with the amount of minutes that he's played versus the amount of goals that he's scored in this really short amount of time, he's definitely a very dangerous player inside the box. I think we need to play him more, maybe use Marega less, because clearly he's not mentally there for league and cup games.
Cool. That's awesome, man. As always, I appreciate having you pop on.
Well,
and
I appreciate the invite, man.
Yeah, no, it's always good to catch up with you, buddy. It's been a while, and yeah,
Sure.
check out their show. I'm gonna have it in the description, the link for everyone to take a look at. They have a fun show where they try doing the most difficult thing I think in covering Portuguese football is run a show at a Portisha, Sportingista, and a Benfica. That is because of how silly our league is with calls, with decision making, and how unbalanced it can be. I think in a way you made a funny comment that at the end of the day it balances out, and it does because the level of stupidity we all face at some point or another with this liga.
Yeah.
But it does cause in the heat of the moment when you're comparing a weekend's games, you will always have usually two of the big three have like a decently officiated game and one of the big three have a horrifically run game. And then next weekend repeat, and it might be the same team that has that bad game, or it might be a different team. But you just kind of repeat that cycle. And to do a show every week, where you're talking to other guys with rival fans, and it could be tough. And I always commend people who try to do it, and people that do it for a prolonged period of time, which you have. And yeah, man, you guys check them out if you can, and we'll have you back on sooner or later.
Yeah, we'll be back. I mean, we're gonna have you soon. I know we just have to work things out. I know you have a busy schedule. But it's we've been trying to get so many people on our show. People have asked to come on our show. It's just so hard to get everybody's schedules together. I like the way you do things, though, Mario. I mean, I like the whole perspective of the rivalry, or the rival perspective on a Benfica podcast. That's really neat. I think it's pretty unique. I don't know if any other show is like that or doing something like that.
Yeah, the goal is not to. I'll be honest. You watch a regular BA90, there is curse words and insert Sporting or Porto other teams on a regular basis because it's fun and banter, and we're talking about Benfica. But we always like to step back and kind of say and put a face to people at the other clubs because I got everyone. If you're Portuguese and depending on your community. I got family that's Sportingistas. I've had family that are Portistas, and we have friends. And the whole idea is to kind of bring those people in, have a chat, and kind of bring that different perspective. And it's neat because sometimes I got my blinders on when I'm staring at, let's say, a Porto game or a Sporting game, and I do like getting insight from a Sportingista or a Portista. And I try to keep tabs on kind of some of their accounts, things of sort. because it's, we all have our biases and things of sort, but it's neat to kind of understand the why. Like, why do they think they're doing well? Why do they think they're struggling? And it's fun. This was the first season we kind of did it in this way. I liked it, and I've been wanting to do a catch up, and that's what this is for. So I look forward to people seeing it, comments and feedback, and doing more of it, right? And it's fun, man. It's fun, and I love checking out your show. I always love meeting new people. I think it's so much fun, and if you want to talk about scheduling conflicts, I got Luigi out in England, and I got Alex in California.
No,
And it is insane sometimes, our conversations and lining up a show. Sometimes it's like we'll watch the match, but we'll all try to figure, okay, I think this is the time it works, and I always am blown away by Luigi's ability to stay up as late as he does, because he runs on a completely different schedule. And in a funny way, it would work, because if I lived in England and he lived in like North America, there's no way we could do the show, because I cannot be up as late as
you can't do it.
I can't do it, man. I got to do Shishi coming. That's it, man.
That's it.
And Alex, man, he's hilarious, but it's funny. Like sometimes, like, oh, I think it's good time. We could go at like 6:00. He's like, well, his time it's still like 3:00. He's at the at work, right. So it's like, okay, let's rejig it around. But it's fun. It's fun, and then I actually want to do a version of this. Maybe we'll do it if we can line it up. It'll be tough. I want to try to see if I can get you, Patrick, and Dave on one show together.
Okay.
I've done them as separate, but again, I think Patrick's UK. Both you, Dave, and myself were East Coast. But it's just finding that right day of getting all the cats herded all into one room.
Yep.
And it'd be kind of fun, and we can kind of chat about our favorite memories and the worst calls and all the fun banter and things that go on.
Yeah, no, I mean, definitely whenever you want, you just kind of check with me. Hopefully we could schedule something where you can come on to Futebol No Filter, and hopefully we can get some type of your perspective. You were on earlier this year.
Yeah.
You helped fill in, and you did a wonderful job as always. So
thank you, buddy.
We do appreciate that.
One other thing that just kind of popped into my head randomly. So one last question. It would be, since Patrick and Dave were recording them separately, if you had one thing to say to the Braga fan, one thing to say to the Sporting fan, what would it be for each of them, I guess? Not personally. It doesn't have to be personally directly, just in general.
Right, no, but to their clubs, I mean, I will say that I think that Braga, I respect Braga as a team. I respect Braga as a club. I do believe that their back line is their biggest issue. I was actually having a debate with that on the Futebol No Filter Facebook page earlier with a different Braga fan. I just think that their defense is their biggest issue, their biggest challenge. But I think they have a quality team from the midfield going forward. Now with the loss of Paulinho, I think it's going to be a struggle. I think they're going to be the favorite to finish in fourth. I don't think that they have enough to finish in third. Although it's very motivating for any team, especially like a team like Braga, if they can get into the third qualifying stage of a Champions League. But I just don't think they have enough, especially with the sale of Paulinho. As for Sporting, I just say, cuidado com os foguetes. Cuidado com os foguetes. I see a lot of people setting off fireworks before the party has began. Not saying that Patrick is the guy. I haven't seen anything like that in terms of that, but there are many Sportingistas that are talking like they have already won. And that could be very dangerous too. Again, we've seen that in the last 2 years with Porto and Benfica fans, that they were very confident that their team was going to win with such a gap. And let's be honest, there's only one team that could have a colossal meltdown of 8 points, and that's Sporting.
I will note though, I will say with the Sporting circle I know, I see a lot of self-deprecating jokes, because they're every single weekend for the last, let's say, 2 months, they've been kind of like, it's going to fall apart at any moment, because they've seen it enough times where I think there's an arrogance with Benfiquistas and Portistas because we're expecting to win the title every year kind of thing, where Sporting has felt so defeated. So it has been funny to watch. It's funny to watch these guys that are so pessimistic, and at what point do they flip where they become very optimistic, because they're nowhere in the middle. They're teetering on, it's all gonna fall apart. And then at some moment, when you sometimes watch them win a game, you see the odd one flip over. All right, it's coming, right? So it's kind of funny to watch. It'll be neat to see if they have the joy celebrating or the heartbreak. Either way, it's gonna be a sight to be seen.
It's going to be colossal either way. It's
Either
going to be
way.
colossal either way. I do believe that they have started to show some signs of weakness, and they're like a boxer. They're getting hit, they're getting jabbed, they're rocking back and forth, but no one has hit them with a knockout blow yet to knock them down. And that's going to be their true test. When they get knocked down, are they going to be able to get back up? So, I believe that they are going to be due, and they're going to be due very soon. And I believe that with the game coming up against Porto at the end of this month, I would not be shocked if they drop points in 1 or 2 games prior to the Porto game. And if that's the case, and then if Porto beats them at home, then that's where we're going to see how true this team really is. But I believe that their team, even though they're young and they're talented, but I think that a lot of people are overvaluing their team. I think they're not as good as they think they really are.
Awesome. All right. No, thank you again. As
problem.
always,
Thank
man,
you.
I can't wait for us to get together again. I really appreciate this.